So, if you think about it, every single weekend, all across the globe, event planners and hosts are inadvertently throwing away just like millions of dollars of perfectly good food.
Oh, absolutely. Tons of it.
Right. And it's all because of one single piece of paper, which is the seating chart.
Yeah, the dreaded seating chart. It's a classic problem.
It really is. Like, you know the exact scenario, right? You walk into this beautifully decorated ballroom, you finally find your assigned seat at, say, table number 7, and you just wait.
You wait and you make awkward small talk.
Exactly. And then an hour later, this very polite server drops a plate in front of you.
Yeah.
And it's always, without fail, that quintessential, perfectly circular, somewhat rubbery breast of chicken.
Usually accompanied by that tight little bundle of asparagus.
Yes! Tied with a literal carrot ribbon. Like, why the carrot ribbon?
It's the hallmark of mass catering right there.
Right, and you eat maybe half of it out of pure obligation, and the rest just goes straight back to the kitchen. It is such an incredibly inefficient, rigid system.
It's completely broken.
But, and this is why we're here today, it is mid-April 2026, and we are finally witnessing the absolute death of the plated dinner.
Which is, frankly, long overdue.
Seriously, we are in the middle of this massive, fundamental shift in how we actually celebrate and how we eat at major life events.
Yeah, because the traditional banquet model it's collapsing under the weight of modern expectations. For decades, the whole industry relied on this forced uniformity just to achieve scale.
Right, because if you're cooking for 200 people, the easiest path is to just give every single person the exact same item at the exact same temperature.
Exactly. But what we are looking at now is this complete reimagination of event dining. It just entirely rejects that uniformity. We're officially moving into the era of the interactive build-your-own-food bar.
And that right there is our mission for today's deep dive. We are unpacking this massive trend that is just taking over weddings, corporate summits, huge backyard parties, you name it.
It's everywhere right now.
It really is.
Yeah.
And specifically, we are going to look at the two undisputed champions of this culinary shift, which are the taco bar and the dim sum bar.
Two very different but very powerful setups.
Oh, totally. But we aren't just going to sit here and talk about how delicious a steamed bao bun is, though. I will probably do a bit of that because I'm getting hungry just thinking about it.
Fair enough.
But the real goal here is to look at the invisible digital infrastructure that makes pulling off this kind of highly customized interactive experience even possible. Because without it, it turns into a complete disaster.
Oh, a total nightmare.
Right. So we are focusing heavily on this platform called Weddizer. Specifically, we're going to look at how their whole website, especially the article section and their hiring tools, kind of acts as the ultimate digital Sherpa.
That's a great way to put it.
Because navigating the logistics of live event catering is immense.
It really is. The digital infrastructure is literally the only reason this shift is even possible today. Because when a host decides to abandon the predictability of a plated dinner and they attempt to execute, live interactive food stations, the logistical complexity doesn't just double, it increases exponentially.
Right, because you aren't just managing a kitchen in the back anymore.
Exactly. You're managing crowd flow, you're tracking real-time inventory in the middle of a ballroom, and honestly, you're managing individual guest psychology.
Which sounds exhausting.
It is. Without a centralized knowledge base and a really vetted hiring network, like what you find on the Weddizer website, an interactive food station is virtually guaranteed to descend into absolute chaos.
Okay, so before we get into the software and the hiring mechanics and how Weddizer actually solves that chaos, I think we really need to understand the human element driving this.
The psychology behind the trend.
Exactly. Like, why are people so eager to abandon the formality of a waiter just handing them a plate? It's a massive psychological shift.
It is.
And I think it comes down to a desire for agency. Guests are just tired of being passive participants in a 3-hour dinner sequence. They actually want to physically participate in the creation of their own experience.
Yeah, it's a complete inversion of the traditional hospitality dynamic.
Yeah.
Because if you think about it historically, luxury was always defined by having things done for you.
Right. Like being waited on hand and foot.
Exactly. The less you had to move your body, the more luxurious the event was perceived to be.
Mm-hmm.
But modern luxury has really redefined itself around curation and bespoke, personalized experiences.
Which makes sense.
So if we look at the underlying framework that's driving this whole interactive jar trend, the sources point out that it's built on 4 distinct pillars.
Right, and those are personalization, entertainment, social engagement, and visual documentation.
Exactly.
So let's pull apart that first pillar, personalization, because let's be honest, if you were planning an event right now, The modern guest list is a terrifyingly complex matrix of dietary
It
restrictions.
really is. It's not like it was 10 years ago.
Not at all. 10 years ago, a caterer might expect, like, what, one or two vegetarian?
Yeah, maybe a peanut allergy, if that.
Right. But today, you look at your spreadsheet of RSVPs and you've got 3 vegans. You have a whole table of people with celiac disease who need strict gluten-free prep. You have someone requiring a halal menu.
Multiple dairy allergies.
Yes.
Yeah.
And a handful of guests on strict keto diets. It's wild.
And that matrix is the ultimate nightmare for an event planner who's relying on a traditional plated model.
Because they have to make, what, 6 different separate meals?
Exactly. Under the old system, you are forced to create these highly specialized secondary menus that inevitably just feel like an afterthought.
Oh, totally. Like the core menu gets 90% of the culinary focus,
right.
right?
The chef is obsessing over the steak.
Right, and then the guest with the dairy allergy gets this sad, unseasoned plate of roasted root vegetables.
Which creates a completely unintended but very real hierarchy among your guests. Some people get the premium experience and others get the leftovers. But the interactive bar neutralizes that hierarchy completely just by decentralizing the entire meal.
I was thinking about this, and it's kind of the difference between broadcast television and streaming.
Oh, that's an interesting way to look at it.
Right, because a plated dinner is basically a linear broadcast. Everyone in the room is forced to consume the exact same program at the exact same moment.
Whether they want to watch it or not.
Exactly. But an interactive taco or dim sum bar, that's a streaming service. You walk up to the platform and you curate exactly what you want in the exact proportions you want, completely on your own schedule.
The streaming analogy works perfectly for the user experience, but, it also highlights the hidden burden on the creator.
What do you mean?
Well, on the back end, offering an on-demand streaming catalog is infinitely more expensive and technically complex than just broadcasting one single signal from a tower.
Oh, sure. Having all those options ready to go at once.
Right. When a guest approaches an array of ingredients, like grilled meats, black beans, separate bowls of specific cheeses, multiple salsas, they can effortlessly build a meal that perfectly suits their dietary needs.
Yeah, and they never have to flag down a waiter.
They never have to have that awkward conversation about cross-contamination while everyone at the table is listening.
Which is such a relief for them.
Exactly. The friction is completely removed. But providing that frictionless experience requires a massive amount of back-end calculation from the host and the caterer.
Which feeds directly into the second and third pillars, entertainment and social engagement. Because there is something fundamentally different about the energy in a room when people are up and moving around.
It changes the whole vibe.
It really does. In a traditional setting, you are physically anchored to a chair for like 2 hours. Your entire social radius is limited to the person on your immediate left, your immediate right, and maybe the person across the table if that giant floral centerpiece isn't blocking your line of sight.
Which it usually is.
Right. So you are essentially trapped in a predetermined social pod.
And that pod is often dictated by a host who is just guessing at social compatibilities months in advance. Like, oh, maybe my college roommate will hit it off with my cousin.
And it almost never works.
No, it doesn't. But the interactive food station destroys the whole concept of the social pod. It acts as this massive architectural water cooler in the room.
I love that. Oh, water cooler.
Yeah, by requiring people to stand up, physically cross the room, and stand in a relaxed queue, you are completely breaking down those rigid social barriers.
You're forcing them into random collisions with people they would never otherwise meet or talk to.
Exactly.
Like standing next to a stranger while you both contemplate which hot sauce to use is an incredibly natural icebreaker. It provides this immediate, low-stakes, shared context.
Right, you could just say, oh, you're going for the habanero, good luck.
Yes. And that simple 10-second interaction sparks a conversation between a coworker and a second cousin who would have otherwise spent the entire night ignoring each other from across the room.
You're touching on the sociology of spatial design here. The food station fundamentally alters the geometry of human interaction within the event space.
Wow, the geometry of human interaction, that's deep.
Well, it's true. It shifts the environment from a static grid, everyone at their tables, to a fluid, dynamic ecosystem. It becomes a kinetic experience.
Okay, I buy the sociology argument completely. It makes total sense. But I want to challenge this fourth pillar, visual documentation.
The Instagram factor.
Right, the Instagram-worthy setup. Because I look at this and I have to wonder, are we seriously designing major, deeply personal life events just to generate content for social media feeds.
It feels a little shallow, right?
Yeah. Has event planning just become an exercise in vanity staging?
So that is a very common critique,
Hmm.
and it's really easy to dismiss the visual aspect as pure narcissism. But I think doing that dismisses the entire historical context of the culinary arts.
Okay, how so?
Humans have always eaten with their eyes first. Long before smartphones or the internet even existed, Renaissance banquets featured these towering sugar sculptures.
Right, right.
And the French were carving elaborate swans out of ice for the center of the room. Presentation has always been a core tenet of celebration. The camera didn't invent the desire for a beautiful aesthetic. It simply democratized the documentation of it.
Oh, wow. So you're saying the interactive bar is just the modern equivalent of the ice sculpture.
It serves the exact same function, yeah, but it is actually a lot more efficient.
How is it more efficient?
Well, when a caterer designs a stunning rustic taco bar, where they're incorporating the vibrant, bright greens of fresh cilantro, the deep, complex reds and purples of artisan salsas, and it's all housed in raw wood and hammered copper serving dishes, the food station is doing double duty.
I see. It's food, but it's also decor.
Exactly. It's providing sustenance, but it is also serving as a major piece of architectural decor for the room. The fact that guests want to photograph it just means the visual design was successful. It creates a communal visual memory.
Right, it anchors the aesthetic of the room. Okay, so we understand the why now. Agency, social fluidity, and visual impact.
Yep, those are the drivers.
Let's get into the actual execution, though. Let's look at the menus themselves. We're talking about the taco bar and the dim sum bar.
The heavy hitters.
On the surface, these seem incredibly different, but they are both completely dominating the 2026 event space. So let's deconstruct the taco bar first.
The taco bar is universally beloved because its mechanics are surprisingly elegant. It relies on a very simple foundation that supports an almost infinite amount of complexity.
And the sensory details of a proper high-end setup are just staggering. Like, you are not just putting out a bowl of generic ground beef and some hard shells.
No, not at this level.
A modern event taco bar includes warm, hand-pressed, soft tortillas and freshly fried hard shells. You have this massive array of proteins, like slow-braised barbacoa, grilled mahi-mahi al pastor that's being carved right off the spit in front of you.
It's a whole production.
It is. Then you have the foundations, like spiced black beans and specialized vegetarian options, maybe roasted sweet potato and poblano.
Which covers the dietary matrix we talked about.
Exactly. And then the garnishes. Micro cilantro, pickled red onions, crumbled cotija cheese, and 6 different signature sauces that range from a mild, cool crema to a blistering salsa matcha.
So if you analyze why that specific combination of items is so effective, it is honestly a masterclass in culinary structure.
How so?
Well, a successful interactive station must offer contrasting elements to prevent palate fatigue. And the taco inherently demands this contrast. First, you have structural contrasts.
Like the crunch versus the soft tortilla?
Exactly. The audible crunch of a fresh radish or a hard shell playing directly against the soft, pillowy texture of a warm flour tortilla.
And the temperature contrasts, too.
Which is huge. Thermodynamics play a massive role in flavor perception. You have these piping hot proteins acting as a thermal base, and they're instantly contrasted by the sharp, cold bite of a chilled salsa verde.
That sounds amazing.
And then you have chemical contrast.
Chemical, like acidity.
Right. The rich, heavy fat of the barbacoa being cut perfectly by the high acidity of a fresh squeeze of lime juice. When you lay all of these elements out individually, you're basically giving the guest a toolkit to build a mathematically terrific bite based on their own unique palate.
The permutations are literally infinite. But, okay, let's look at the second major trend here, because this one feels significantly more ambitious and honestly a bit terrifying from a planning perspective.
It really is.
The dim sum bar. So we're talking about steamed, fried, and baked dumplings, pillowy barbecue pork bao buns, crispy spring rolls, complex layered dipping sauces featuring black vinegar and chili crisp. But the defining feature here, the thing that makes it a trend, is the integration of live steaming stations.
Yes. The live steaming station is where this trend crosses the line from high-end catering into theatrical performance art.
Wow, performance art.
It is. It is a completely different operational category than a taco bar.
And this is where my skepticism really kicks in. Because a taco bar is essentially an assembly line, right? The caterer cooks the meat, puts it in a heated dish, and the guest does the actual labor of assembling the taco.
Right. The guest is the final chef.
But executing live dim sum, steaming delicate, translucent hargao dumplings for 200 people in real time. You cannot cook a delicate dumpling and just leave it sitting in an aluminum chafing dish for 45 minutes.
No, absolutely not.
The moisture will destroy the wrapper. It will turn into this gelatinous, unappetizing paste. Doesn't executing this require a level of synchronization that borders on the impossible for a standard event?
Your skepticism is entirely justified.
Hmm.
Executing live dim sum is basically a high-wire act without a net.
Okay, so it is as hard as it sounds?
Oh yeah. It is a highly technical culinary performance that relies on precise moisture control and thermal management. The atmospheric pressure inside a bamboo steamer must be perfectly maintained.
Atmospheric pressure at a wedding.
Yes. The timing has to be flawless. If the water drops below a rolling boil, the steam dissipates, and the bay buns become dense and doughy. But if you leave them on the steam for 60 seconds too long, they become soggy and just collapse into mush.
It is incredible when it works, but it clearly has the potential for catastrophic public failure.
And that is the reality of moving away from the safety of a plated back-of-house dinner. When you bring the cooking into the ballroom, you are bringing all the risks of a commercial kitchen directly into the guest experience.
Right in front of everyone.
Exactly. There is a massive danger zone here, and it is entirely paved with good intentions.
Well, let's map out that danger zone,
Okay.
because anyone planning an event in 2026 needs to understand these pitfalls before they start writing checks.
They really do.
So the biggest, most immediate trap people fall into, according to the sources, is overcomplicating the menu. They just want to offer everything.
Right. And this is where understanding human psychology becomes critical for an event planner. We established earlier that guests love agency and personalization.
Right. They want to choose.
But cognitive psychology dictates that there is a strict threshold where choice stops being a luxury and actually becomes a burden. It's the classic paradox of choice.
Oh, it's like that famous supermarket jam study.
Exactly that study.
For those who haven't heard of it, basically, if you set up a tasting table in a grocery store with, say, 6 types of jam, people will confidently taste them, pick their favorite, and buy a jar.
Right.
But if you set up a table with 24 types of jam, people will look at the massive display, become completely overwhelmed by the cognitive effort required to evaluate 24 different options, and they'll just walk away without buying anything at all. They literally paralyze themselves.
Now apply that cognitive paralysis to a line of hungry guests at a taco bar.
Oh, no.
Right. If you offer 3 expertly prepared proteins, 2 distinct styles of beans, and a highly curated selection of 5 essential toppings, the guest can evaluate those options in seconds.
They know exactly what they want.
Right. They build their plate, they're happy, and they move on. The throughput of the line remains high.
But if a host tries to be way too accommodating and they put out 40 different micro toppings, 4 types of shredded cheese, and 12 different signature hot sauces,
The guest physically stops moving.
they just freeze.
They stand at the station, holding up the entire queue, trying to mentally calculate the flavor interactions between a pineapple mango salsa and a smoked chipotle crema.
Which is too much pressure for a party.
It is. They are terrified of making the wrong choice. And while they are standing there deliberating, the line behind them halts entirely.
And when the line halts, the energy of the party instantly dies. People are just standing in a ballroom holding empty plates, staring at the back of someone's head.
It's the worst vibe killer.
Which brings us to the second massive pitfall: ignoring guest flow and spatial design. I always picture a poorly designed buffet like a badly engineered highway interchange.
That's a perfect analogy, because the mechanics of crowd flow are incredibly unforgiving.
How so?
If you funnel 150 people into a single linear queue to reach one single bowl of guacamole at the very end of a table, you have not created an interactive experience. You have created a bottleneck. You have engineered a traffic jam.
Right, you have to account for what they call dwell time.
Exactly. Dwell time is crucial.
Think about it. It takes a guest maybe 3 seconds to grab a hard taco shell, but it takes them 12 to 15 seconds to carefully spoon out salsa so it doesn't spill all over their nice outfit.
Yeah, nobody wants salsa on their suit.
Exactly. So if you place the fast items like the taco shells immediately next to the slow items like the salsa, the fast action just crashes right into the slow action.
That is a perfect illustration of spatial engineering right there. To solve that, you have to physically separate the stations.
Break them apart.
Right. You place the foundational items, the plates and the tortillas, at multiple entry points around the room.
So people don't all clump in one spot.
Yes. And you move the high dwell time items, like the complex sauces, to a completely separate standalone island station. You separate the hydration, the margaritas, or the specialty teas to an entirely different side of the room.
Oh, that makes so much sense.
You have to design the flow so it gets disperse rather than converge.
You are almost tricking them into moving efficiently around the room.
You are.
But, okay, even if you design the perfect layout and you curate the perfect menu so nobody's paralyzed by choice, you still face the third, and frankly, most dangerous pitfall: hiring inexperienced talent.
Yes. This goes back to your realization earlier about the live dim sum station.
Right, the high wire act.
The event industry is absolutely flooded right now,
Mm.
and the skill set required to survive in a closed commercial kitchen is fundamentally different from the skill set required to execute a live interactive food bar in the middle of a decorated venue.
It's the difference between being a prep cook in the back and an open kitchen line cook who's basically on stage.
Exactly. If you hire a caterer whose entire business model for the last decade has been cooking massive batches of food in a warehouse, putting it into insulated boxes, and just dropping those boxes off at a venue, they are going to drown at a live station.
They really will.
Because when you are running a live station, you are no longer just a chef. You are a logistics manager.
You're managing rolling boils and fuel cells, like you said.
Yes, you are a showman because the guests are watching your every single move. You have to maintain an immaculate, clean workspace while moving at lightning speed.
You can't just throw things in the sink.
No, everyone sees the mess. And on top of that, you are a customer service representative. You have to smile and answer questions about allergens while simultaneously flipping 50 tortillas.
That is a lot to juggle.
If you hire someone who has never stress tested that very specific combination of skills, the food won't be replenished fast enough, the hot food will go cold, and the whole aesthetic appeal will instantly evaporate into just a messy, chaotic reality.
And all of these failures, the paralyzed guests, the traffic jams, the overwhelmed caterers dropping soggy ball buns onto plate, they all roll up into one overarching meta failure.
Which
The delusion that you can just wing it.
Oh, absolutely.
You cannot just open a search engine, type in taco caterer near me, pick the third link, and expect to pull off a flawless 2026 event. The margin for error is razor thin.
The complexity demands a system. It demands an infrastructure.
Which brings us to the absolute core of our deep dive today. How do you actually survive this process? How do you navigate this massive danger zone?
You need a guide.
Right. And the entire solution we're looking at revolves around utilizing the Weddizer platform.
Yes.
But I want to be clear here. We shouldn't talk about Weddizer as just a directory or a simple vendor list. The way to view the Weddizer website is as the ultimate educational blueprint and operational backend for your event.
Framing it as an operational backend is exactly right. If you look at how the Weddizer platform is actually structured, their entire model relies on front-loading the education.
Before you even start buying things.
Exactly. Before you are even allowed to look at vendor pricing, before you send a single email inquiry, the platform kind of pushes you into their knowledge base, specifically their highly detailed articles section.
Reading the Weddizer articles is honestly the equivalent of a pilot running through their pre-flight checks.
That's a great analogy.
You wouldn't just jump into the cockpit of a commercial jet, start flipping random switches, and hope you achieve liftoff.
That would be disastrous.
And you absolutely shouldn't attempt to launch a live 200-person dim sum station without reading the manual first.
The articles on Weddizer serve to eliminate the knowledge gap between the amateur host and the seasoned professional. They guide you through the foundational decisions that will ultimately dictate the success of the catering.
Give me an example of what they cover.
Well, for instance, the articles spend a significant amount of time focusing on thematic alignment.
Okay, so matching the food to the vibe of the room.
Exactly. The food has to match the architecture of the event. If you are hosting a hyper-modern, minimalist, black tie summit in a glass and steel building, you cannot just drop a rustic, reclaimed wood taco cart in the corner.
Right, it causes massive visual dissonance.
It does. The Weddizer articles teach you how to align the physical build of the food station with the aesthetic language of the room.
That's fascinating. I wouldn't even have thought of that.
They also dive deeply into the psychology of wayfinding, which directly solves that traffic jam pitfall we discussed earlier.
Wayfinding, meaning how people navigate the space.
Yes. The platform emphasizes the critical importance of clear, hyperspecific signage. We talked about dwell time a minute ago, right?
Huh? Yeah, how long someone stands in front of a dish.
Right. So a guest staring at a bowl of black beans, wondering if they were cooked with pork fat, adds 10 seconds to their dwell time.
And if 50 guests do that, the line is dead.
Exactly. But if there is a beautifully designed, clearly printed sign that says, vegan black beans, dairy-free, pork-free, that question is answered instantly.
The sign acts as a silent employee.
It perfectly acts as a silent employee, answering questions so the line just keeps moving. The Weddizer articles essentially train the host on these micro-efficiencies before they ever hire anyone.
That is so smart. And the platform also transitions the user from abstract theory into concrete action, right? Through their step-by-step programs.
Yes, because it is one thing to read an article about flow, it is another entirely to actually build the schedule.
Right.
These structured programs force the host to organize the physical logistics and build out micro timelines.
And the micro timeline is everything. We established earlier that timing for live food is the single most critical variable.
It completely dictates success or failure. In a traditional event, the timeline just says something like, dinner served at 7 p.m.
Just so vague.
It is entirely insufficient for an interactive bar. The Weddizer step-by-step programs force you into what's called backward planning.
Okay, how does that work?
If the dim sum bar needs to be open and serving by 7 p.m., the software prompts you to calculate the reverse logistics.
Meaning working backward from 7.0.
Right, so the water in the chafing tanks needs to reach a rolling boil by 6.4 p.m. The bamboo steamers need to be loaded with the first wave of bao buns by 6.45 p.m. The blackup reserves need to hit the secondary steamers by 6.52 p.m.
Oh, wow. It takes this massive, invisible mental load, the anxiety of wondering when to turn the heat on, and offloads it entirely into a structured, executable format.
It acts as an automated project manager.
It ensures that the exact second the first guest arrives at the station, the steam is rising, the food is at the peak of freshness, and the presentation is pristine.
It systematically neutralizes the risk of poor planning. It literally gives you the blueprint.
But a blueprint is useless if you don't have the right people to build the house.
Exactly. Education is only the first phase. Execution requires highly skilled human talent.
Which brings us to the execution phase. Utilizing Wedzer's business section to actually hire the talent for these wedding events or corporate summits.
The hiring phase is usually where the anxiety really peaks.
Oh, yeah. We have to talk about the sheer terror of trying to hire someone in the modern gig economy. If you just do a generic web search for event catering, you are hit with a tidal wave of noise.
It's overwhelming.
You have no idea if you are looking at a seasoned culinary team or an amateur who bought a flat-top grill at a hardware store last weekend and just built a nice-looking website on their laptop.
The search problem is immense right now because the barrier to entry for marketing a business is essentially zero. Anyone can make a slick website.
Right.
This is where Weddizer's business section shifts from being a convenience to being an absolute necessity. The platform doesn't just list caterers, it filters them. And the most critical filter is the verified status.
That verified badge is everything. It is not just a graphic on a screen. It is basically an anxiety reduction tool.
In the event industry, trust is the only currency that matters. When you see a verified caterer on Weddizer, it means the platform has stress-tested that vendor.
They've done the homework for you.
Yes. It means they possess the proper insurance, the proper commercial licenses, and a proven track record. It is an insurance policy against the ultimate nightmare scenario of a caterer simply not showing up.
Which happens more often than people think.
It really does. But verification's just the baseline. The real power of the Weddizer hiring tool is the contextual review system.
Okay, yes, let's talk about this. Explain the difference between a standard review and a contextual review, because this is where a lot of people make a critical error when they're hiring.
Right. So if you go to a standard search engine and look up a caterer, you might see a glowing 5-star review that says, "They made fantastic cold-cut sandwiches for my office lunch."
Okay, that sounds good on the surface.
That review is factually true, yes. But it is functionally useless to you if you're trying to hire someone to run a live dim sum bar for 200 people.
Oh, because cold sandwiches require zero thermal management and zero live performance.
Exactly. The skill set just doesn't translate at all.
Right.
But Weddizer allows you to filter and read reviews specifically contextualized to live food stations.
Yeah.
You can see feedback from other hosts regarding the exact metrics that actually matter for your event.
Like what?
Like, did this specific caterer handle the 8:00 p.m. dinner rush without the line backing up?
Important.
Was their live staff professionally dressed and engaging positively with the guests? Did their portable steaming equipment function properly without blowing the electrical circuits in the venue?
Oh, I didn't even think about the power requirements.
Right. By filtering for that specific context, you completely mitigate the danger of hiring a caterer who is inexperienced in live event execution.
You are ensuring that you aren't just hiring someone who knows how to cook. You are hiring a proven event operations team. And once you find that team on the Weddizer platform, you don't have to leave the ecosystem to negotiate. You connect directly through their business portal. And this allows you to request highly customized catering solutions.
Because you have already educated yourself through the article section, when you connect with the vendor, you are speaking their language.
You're not just a clueless client anymore.
Right. You aren't just asking for package A, you're requesting specific cultural fusions. For example, you can ask for a taco bar that features Korean BBQ bulgogi beef alongside traditional al pastor, perfectly bridging the cultural backgrounds of a couple getting married.
Okay, I have to stop right here and just challenge the fundamental reality of everything we are discussing.
Okay, go for it.
Live steaming the bamboo baskets.
Yeah.
Highly vetted, verified, professional operational teams. Custom designed Korean fusion menus. Architectural food station builds.
This sounds like a lot.
This sounds phenomenally expensive. If I am sitting here planning an event, looking at my spreadsheet, doesn't executing an interactive live food station completely obliterate my budget compared to just ordering a standard drop-off buffet?
It is the most common assumption people make, and honestly, it is entirely logical. Live and custom sound like code words for premium pricing.
They usually are.
But the reality of catering economics is much more fluid than that. The cost of an interactive bar is not a fixed point. It is a series of levers.
Okay, levers.
And the Weddizer platform is designed specifically to help you identify and manipulate those levers to fit your exact financial reality.
Walk me through these levers. How do I manipulate the cost without just completely ruining the event?
So the primary cost factors in any catering equation are ingredient tier, headcount, live staffing hours, and equipment rentals.
Right.
Weddizer's budgeting tools allow you to estimate these costs transparently before you ever sign a contract. Let's say you have a massive budget. You push all the levers to the maximum.
I'm going all out.
Right. You request A5 Wagyu beef for the taco bar. You order live Maine lobster for the dim sum. And you hire a team of 6 highly trained live chefs to man the stations and interact with the guests. That is a premium, top-tier execution.
It sounds incredible, but what if my budget is strictly capped? What if I simply do not have the capital for 6 live chefs and Wagyu beef?
Then you use the platform to negotiate the levers downward while still maintaining the aesthetic illusion. Labor is always the most expensive line item. Always.
So you cut the labor.
Right. You communicate with the vendor through Weddizer to remove the live chefs. Instead of live steaming on demand in the ballroom, you pivot to a high-end, static setup.
How does that work?
The caterer pre-steams the dim sum flawlessly in their commercial kitchen, transports it in advanced thermal cabinets, and sets it up at the venue using gorgeous architectural chafing dishes.
Oh, I see.
These chafing dishes maintain the perfect temperature without requiring an hourly culinary team to monitor them constantly.
Okay, so the food is still great, the setup is still beautiful, but I'm not paying for 6 chefs. And then you pull the ingredient lever down, too.
Exactly. You swap the Wagyu beef for a beautifully marinated chicken thigh, which is significantly cheaper, but honestly still incredibly flavorful if done right.
And you swap the lobster for a traditional pork and chive dumpling.
Yes, you still get the interactive flow, you still break down the social barriers, you still get the visually stunning, Instagram-worthy aesthetic, but you have utilized the platform to engineer the cost down by 50%.
That is amazing.
Weddizer facilitates that transparency, so you are never hit with a surprise invoice that destroys your budget.
It provides the educational blueprint, it supplies the marketplace to find the verified talent, and it gives you the financial tools to scale the vision to your specific reality. It really is a completely enclosed ecosystem for modern event planning.
It removes the guesswork from an industry that has historically been plagued by miscommunication and hidden costs.
Wow. We have covered immense ground today.
We really have.
We started by looking at the deep, fundamental desire for agency and personalization that is slowly but surely killing the traditional plated dinner.
The end of the rubbery chicken.
Right. We explored the sensory architecture of the taco bar and the frankly terrifying thermal mechanics of the live dim sum bar.
The High Wire Act.
We mapped out the danger zones, the cognitive paralysis of too many jam choices, the traffic jams of poor spatial design, and the total disaster of hiring unverified talent.
All very real threats.
And ultimately, we detailed exactly how to use the Weddizer website, from its pre-flight article section to its verified business hiring tools, to systematically neutralize every single one of those risks.
And while our focus today leaned heavily on weddings, the mechanics we discussed are completely universal.
Right, it applies to anything.
Whether you are tasked with organizing a massive 3-day corporate retreat, a high-stakes charity gala, or just an incredibly ambitious backyard anniversary party, the laws of event physics do not change.
Crowd flow is crowd flow.
Exactly. Understanding how crowds flow, respecting the psychology of choice, and relying on vetted platforms to hire verified professionals will absolutely dictate the success or failure of your event.
It really is the new standard of hospitality. But as we close out this deep dive, I want to leave you with one final lingering thought to kind of chew on.
Okay, let's hear it.
We opened the show talking about that universal, somewhat annoying memory of the plated chicken dinner. Everyone trapped at table number 7, eating the exact same rubbery chicken at the exact same moment.
A shared misery.
It was rigid, it was inefficient, but, and hear me out, it was undeniably a unified experience.
Well, I see where you're going with this. It was a shared culinary moment, for better or worse.
Right. And here is the paradox. If platforms like Weddizer and the brilliant logistics of interactive stations are making extreme, hyper-personalized culinary curation so effortless, will we eventually lose the profound, ancient, communal experience of everyone breaking the exact same bread?
That is a deep question.
If I am standing at a table eating a highly customized, blisteringly spicy vegan sweet potato taco, and the person standing right next to me is eating a mild, dairy-heavy grilled fish taco,
Yeah.
we are no longer sharing a meal.
We were just eating different things in the exact same room.
Exactly. Does this infinite, frictionless choice ultimately bring us closer together by making us all perfectly comfortable? Or does it slowly isolate us into our own hyper-individualized culinary bubbles?
It is the ultimate modern paradox. We crave absolute individual control, but at the end of the day, we also crave universal connection.
It is definitely something to mull over the next time you find yourself standing in a queue, utterly paralyzed by 4 different types of artisanal hot sauce.
Good luck picking one.
Right. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive into the future of interactive dining and the digital tools that make it all possible. We will catch you next time.